Hi, I'm Dave. Welcome to the shop. This is what it looks like today. It doesn't really look that different on off days, but oh. Huh. Got a little free with some glue here. I'm not sure what that is. I think what I'm looking at is it's getting on to a time to refinish the bench top. You know, I worked for years out of here, but spend most of my time working on projects away. People's houses. Come into the shop, make some stuff, and go off and put it in somebody's house, which is great. But now I'm pretty much working here all the time, and so the bench gets a lot dirtier than it ever did. Things have changed. I need to sand it down, get all the snots off it, and get another coat of tung oil on it, because it's stuff's starting to stick. That was bad. Stuff isn't supposed to really stick. Wow, there's another spot there. I don't know what. The other day I was making some stuff using it was some PVC and using a new kind of glue from the West system, and I think that's what that is. Wow, good stuff, I guess, if that's what you like. Anyway, hey, welcome to the shop. I'm Dave. I'm sure you know who you are. I get my folding rule. I have a hard time really thinking without my folding rule. This is not my first folding rule, and it's God knows how many. Quite a few. It's a rough and tumble world. Yeah, I don't know, 20? But this one, which is my semi-favorite red end Lufkin, I'd like to say they hold up real well. I don't know, because I abuse them and they break. I've got some short ones, you can imagine. This one is a kind of a unique one. I've never had one like this. It starts at 1 on this side, and if you flip it over, it starts at 1 on the same side. So this is the 1 end, and this is the 72 end on both sides. So no matter how you open this, you can be half wrong. 50% of the time you're wrong, which sucks. Really sucks. I liked it better back in the day when it started at 1 on one side and it started at 1 at the other end on the other side, so that no matter how you open the ruler, when you pulled it out of your pocket, you could start and measure. I can do the math on small things, but some of the stuff gets a little too much. Where is 7 13/16 on this side? I know it's near the 8, which is 64, but really it's too much for me to be thinking about while I'm trying to get something done on the nickel. Anyway, this was a mistake purchase. I bought this, I was wrong. I've never bought one like this before, I was wrong. I had a guy in the crew one time bought an 8-footer like this. Turns out it's too many leaves. He was wrong. Says me, in my humble opinion. And I don't know that you're going to share it, but that's how it is. Anyway, all that said, we've got a project coming up. And the next project is I've got a piece of artwork and it needs a frame. It has a frame, but it's terrible. It's one of those, I've got this artwork, I spent a bunch of money on it, and all I've got is 35 cents left in my pocket, so can I get a frame for that? Is sort of what it looks like. I, on the other hand, don't need to spend I don't have 35 cents, but I've got some wood. So I've got some cherry. A nasty old piece of cherry was the last board of a run. I like to use things in books. I'm that much closer to my sawmill these days. The sawyer cuts stuff and I go and buy it, and I'll buy 6 pieces of wood all from the same tree. And so everything comes out with the same kind of color. I mean, granted, every board's a little bit different, like snowflakes, but the general tone of the cherry in this board, general tone is the same from one end to the other. It was like that with the other 4 boards from this set, but now they're gone, and I'm left with this one. So this is going to be the core of this new frame, and I'm gonna make some moldings. I've made one. Let me grab it. I made one the other day. Haven't touched it other than having made it. So it's still got some feathers on it, and it needs a little bit of trimming, and it needs a little finishing sanding. This is a piece of soft maple, and the molding profile matches molding that's really common in my house. It's a backband molding that's used in pine on my house for door and window casings. Back in the 18th century, I happened to run into a plane that makes that molding. I could show it to you. Ah, all right. So, we're back. All right, I have the plane that makes that molding. It's a reverse OG, kind of a Greek OG, with a cork, sharp inside line, and then a bead, half of the round, and then a shoulder. And it is the plane that this molding was made from. I had a set of knives cut, not wholly unlike these, different profile, set of knives, and I had it cut from my molded plane because it's a lovely plane. It's hard to push. It's not that it's pushing planes. Trying to make a living making moldings by hand in the 20th century is a little bit tough. So I had a machine blade cut so that I could make hundreds and hundreds of feet of it, which I have over time. So now I've got this, so I've made some molding with it. It's going to go on the back edge, like that, of this frame. And I've got a small, it's like a chair rail cap molding. And I'm going to make a mold with it that's going to set on the inside edge, and in a sense use this to form the rabbet for the glass and picture in the frame. It's going to be cool. Next process. So I've made the outside band, and I've got the cherry core pieces bucked out. I still think I want to bring them down to 5/8 of an inch. They're currently at 11/16. But I can do that. Now I've got some, I grabbed a piece of kind of swamp birch that I had kicking around. It's another one of those, I don't have anything that matches it. It's an orphan piece of wood. So I feel as though I can use it on a one-off piece, and it will blend in with itself. And I don't have to worry about how it fits with anything else. So that takes care of that. And I've got a couple of strips made, and they're just the right size for this molding. And my dream right now is to set the molded planer up with these knives and push these two strips through. And if you'd like, I know this is a long way to get to this, but if you'd like, you can watch. Let's go yank the knives that are in there and get these knives set in and see what's next. Let's see what happens. All right, so this is my little Williams and Hussey molded planer. It's kind of an oldie. I mean, it's not ancient. I think I bought it new. It's been through a lot. And this right here is where the knives go. So, cut a couple of holdfasts. I put a plywood bottom in it because I like wood. I got a nice little stop on it. I use strips of wood to align my pieces, lining them up with the blades. I have, I don't know, 40 different profiles of knives that I can put in it. And so I need to be able to convert this from one to the next. So the plywood base makes it really easy. If I need to screw something down, that'd be a hold. I'm currently using these little feather boards to hold the strips in. I frequently put different size pieces on the side as skids. It allows me an awful lot of flexibility. And it's got a little metal stand. It's great. The actual bed to the machine is only that long. So this right here extends it and makes it a little bit smoother to cut. Little tools like this have a tendency to snipe, cut a little deep the last couple of inches. It's all right when it's on both rollers, roller in and roller out. But when it's only on one, it has a tendency to bobble when it's on the first 4 inches and the last 4 inches. And that's called snipe in the business. Reducing snipe basically means that you get 8 inches more of wood planed every time you push something through, which if you're cutting it to size ahead of time can really be an issue. Anyway, let's pull some knives. This rarely happens, but the last knife and the one that I'm going to replace it with are virtually the same size in width, and so there's a real good chance that I can leave my guide strip and my feather boards all in the same place and just swap the knives out. Typically it's a it's a whole setup issue. Anyway, this is that knife that I was using. Let me grab a piece of wood. You'll see, I think, a little bit more of it. Maybe this all makes sense to you already. There are times when it's kind of a mystery. Anyway, there it is, right? That's a beautiful thing. And it's sharp, wicked sharp. High-speed steel, wicked sharp. And does a real good job. It's kind of a handwork shop, but there are times when having a machine to do something is kind of helpful. So look at me, I'm just throwing this knife right back in, throwing a new knife right back into the fray here. There's play, here's a little hint from your Uncle Dave, there's play in the blade. And the holes are oversized for the bolts. So what I've got here, a little block of wood that I cut today, or yesterday, that I'm going to press the knife right up against this little block of wood, which sits right here. And then I'll snug these knives down onto it, yank it out, and now I'm going to do that same thing on the other side. You can see what's happening here, huh? All right, and I'll do that again. This is great. Not that it's any big deal, but usually it's pull the feather boards off, pull this strip off, and mount the knives, and then cut a new strip and get it the right size and the right location. Yeah. Anyway, have this machine for, I don't even know, 45 years, I think. 40 for sure. Yeah, 40. One of my first business ventures with an old buddy, and he had one. And when we parted company, he left with his. And there was no problem. I could borrow it any time, but you know, it got to the point where it was easier just to have one than to borrow one. Thing about borrowing stuff, tools in particular, is if something goes wrong with it while you're using it, which sometimes happens, you end up having to fix the thing because it's not yours, and you have to turn it back in the way you got it. And so there you are, having actually spent money on the damn thing, and you still don't have one. So there we go. That's in. That's snug. All right. So now you've seen knives installed, and they cut. Thing you always check. The thing cuts toward you. feeds into the cut, and so it cuts toward you, and so both blades are set so that the cutting edge is toward us, this end. Great. All right. So I believe I'm going to run a piece through. It's a test, but I believe that this is going to work out. Let me grab a piece of this. Oh yeah, it's snug, but still, that's in, and lines up with the knife real well. This is all good. Not really. I've got like a 32nd of an inch of this knife hanging over the edge. As you can imagine, because I've carefully set these things on both sides. I'm going to yank that strip, and I think it's a little tight anyway. Okay, so this didn't work out. Let's back up. All right, so I have to get that. I have to get this strip out. It's all right. It's not a big deal. There's two. Great. Tiny little strip. I'm going to take about a 32nd of an inch off this. Use the table saw. All right, so just ran this through the saw, and that went really well. The tiny nails. Pressure of these fingers are going to hold this piece of wood pretty well in place. But I'd hate to have something catch and drag it and then just throw the whole thing off. Don't want that to happen. All right, so now I'll run this piece back through again and see how it works on the fingers, whether I need to reset them. I believe I do. No, I don't. They're good. Fingers are good. And now, blade lines up with the blade really well. It's a finger thing for me. All right, so there we have that. I am now ready to put the cowl back on. This cowl provides a little bit of safety in terms of chips flying at you and little pieces of wood. And every now and then, when a blade blows up, it'll protect you from pieces of the blade coming at you. As in, we've had to have this thing welded back together a couple of times. My metal guy hates it when I show up with stuff like this. I don't know if this is the right thing to do, Dave. I don't know that I should be doing this for you, Dave. You know how that goes. All right, now, chips. Dust collection is a real important thing. All right, 2 pieces of wood. This is going to go in multiple passes, probably 4 times through, because I don't like to push it. I don't like to cut too much off at any one time. I don't have any, I'm not on the clock. All right, set to go. You ready for this? I'm kind of ready. Is this a good location? I don't know. Pretty good. Let's see what happens. All right, earmuffs. Earmuffs. Vacuum. On. Catch on the other side. Okay, I'm not sure, but the reason for the gloves is because of the little splintery pieces. I want to be able to push this thing and not have to worry about it getting in my hands or doing that. Oh my God. So I wear the gloves. It cuts down on the dexterity, but I don't have to do much other than hang on, guide, and push. And so that works pretty well. Got a couple of chips. I may have to just patch that. these are those things that I worry about, catching those with my finger. But I want to examine this thing, probably do it, excuse me, on the bench. But I want to examine this and make sure that I've got the pieces the way I like it, the thickness is right, and the rest of that. I'm thinking I'm going to give it one more half a turn. But let me take a look at this. I'll be right back. Okay, so I've labored over this thing. It's in good shape. I like it a lot. Everything's good about it. As good as I expected. There are a couple of little flaws. Not a big deal. I'll take care of them. Little chips. It'll be fine. But this edge right here, I was kind of hoping for it to come out a little bit thinner. A little bit. So I think I want to take another half a turn on the thing, which I don't even know what that translates into. It's a 10 pitch thread, so a 1/20 of an inch. Won't be much. Not even that. Anyway, so I want to take a little teeny bit of that out. I've got a little bit of that snipe that I mentioned. I don't know that I need to worry about it, but it'd give me a little bit more flexibility. One more half a turn. That's that. We're done. All right, start it up, and we'll run these things through, and then I'll just spend a couple of hour and a half sanding. A couple of grades. All right, here we go. Okay, so that pass came out really well. I won't say it's flawless, but boy, it's pretty darn good. Pretty darn good, considering what a nasty piece of beach this was when I started. It's great. All right, and now I'm going to go through and I've got to detail this little edge. I think I'll trim this a little bit on the saw, teeny bit, and then then you get the detailing. I'll get the little sanding paper out and just sand. So I've been sanding these things. Not at all unhappy. They've come up, you know, pretty much right to the mark. Couple of spots, you know, it wasn't the greatest of pieces of wood, and you know, typical of how things go in a small shop. I didn't have a lot of extra choices. This seemed like a good use for these couple pieces of wood. The maple, scrap of maple that I had left over from a staircase project, that came out real well. But this birch, not so much. So it had a couple of flaws. It had some, you can see some heartwood. It's not a big deal. As a matter of fact, I like a little teeny bit of this. I kind of wish there was a little bit more of this brown discoloration, but this is fine. But there were a couple of spots that were, you know, chipped a little bit around some tiny knots, little teeny things, not enough to throw them away. I've put some putty in them. I'm using this plastic wood. It's not plastic wood. It's a Elmer's product. I assume it's just Elmer's glue and powdered wood. Doesn't much matter what it is. It fills. I'll sand 90% of what I put on away, and then when I put some finishes on it, I imagine the first coat on this is going to be amber shellac. This particular finish takes the amber shellac pretty well, and so I think it will work out fine. This will clean up, and then I'll be ready to do some picture framing sort of stuff. So remember, I had to the pieces of cherry that I picked out is still a little bit thicker than I want. I'm going to finish planing them down. Really, this worked out so well, I think 1/2 inch is going to be a fine thickness for it. So let's go do that. Okay, so you can imagine, like everything in here, everything's got a little bit of a story. Everything's not quite right. These finished out pretty well. They're around 11/16. I want them, I think, 1/2 inch. This got some wane on it. I'm going to trim this to width a little bit, so that'll pick up some of that. Plane most of the 3/16 that I have to take off. Yeah, 3/16. I'll plane most of that off the back, so that it'll just reduce the amount of this thing. This one's got a little bit of, well, that one's got a little bit of rough surface on it, never actually joined out. This one's got a little bit of the same thing. I keep telling myself when the time comes, this will come off in the miter. I don't have to worry too much about that. I think I'm all set, but I do want to change the thickness. This would be a good opportunity to go after those last little bits of issues. Let's do that. Okay, well that's done, and the faces of them came out really well. Now I need to, I guess, now I need to go home for dinner. The next thing I want to do is join these things, get good edges on both sides, bring them to their final width, which I think is going to be, 4.5, something like that, maybe 4. I'm playing, I don't know for sure. 4.5. I think 4.5 will be it. We'll see how that works out with the moldings. I'm going to set that all up so I can get a good look at it. That 4.5 will reduce this, so this won't be so bad. I'm thinking that this is going to go to the outside, and I've been thinking that I'm going to bevel this outside edge of this board so that it won't look so thick when you look at it from the side. Not that we spend a lot of time looking at artwork from the side, but it's there. And cutting down on the thickness by putting a little bit of a bevel on this will help. And I think that once I trim this back, be careful of this edge obviously, I think I'll be able to get this down to a manageable thickness. If I can bring this down to 1/4 of an inch on this side and bevel it back like at a 45-degree angle, that would make me real happy. So that's the plan. So dinner, then back, join these things, rip them to width, and then get a final measurement on the opening size, because this will be the glass, so to speak. This is part of the glass rabbet. And then miter them and glue them up. I'm thinking I'm going to put some sort of a joint in the miter. I may use my biscuit joiner to make slots in the miters, and then cut a piece of wood, because I don't trust the biscuits, but cut a piece of wood to put in there like a spline. I'm thinking I'm going to do that. That should be sort of fun, a little bit of an adventure. All right, so that'll be something to do tomorrow, and we'll have fun doing it. Can't wait. Thanks for watching. So, just for a little look, because you're always wondering. I'm thinking that that's going to go like that. This obviously flush with the edge, although this isn't the edge. My edge is at 4.5. I could mark that. Let's go 4 3/4 right now. There's 4 3/4 right there. So that's going to be the edge of my board when I cut it. And when I assemble the frame, this will go right on that line like that. And this, I'm going to rabbet the underside of this. This I'm going to put on whole, but this I'm going to rabbet the underside. From about here, about 3/16 of an inch, I'll rabbet away like that. And so then that'll set sort of inside this, like that. And that'll be my frame. Kind of wide, kind of busy. This will be down almost 1/4 of an inch. This will set proud. So there'll be a little bit of a taper because this will be down 1/4 of an inch. It'll be substantial. I like substantial. I'm substantial sort of guy. We're going to go with substantial. I love it. All right. I know I said thanks for watching. I know you've been watching. You got things to do. I just wanted you to see this. We're good. You see that snipe right there, that little shadow? I can see it. We'll get through it. All right. Really, this time. Go home. Thanks for watching.